what I love about this piece is that Danny's take isn't depressing and his approach isn't depressing, and that's really important. He says that his parents would totally have agreed with his approach, which is to confront it all, not to shy away from it all. And they would have found it upsetting, he says, particularly because they really believed in young people and they really believed in America as two very positive forces.
So Jane Mulkerrins with news of the Times magazine. Can we start with something? It's so serious and it's so depressing, and this is a fantastic piece that everybody should read, but God, it chills your blood, by Daniel Finkelstein.
Yeah, it is, as you say, a tough read and a really horrifying one, but it's resonant with something you were talking about just yesterday on the show with Zach Goldsmith, the totally terrifying explosion of anti-Semitism in this country and globally. So just to give you background to the piece, the brilliant Times writer and columnist Danny Finkelstein wrote a really personal and very pertinent book about his parents a couple of years ago. It's called Hitler, Stalin, Mum and Dad.
Everyone should read that as well.
Incredible book. His mum survived Bergen-Belsen. Some of his grandparents died, however. His dad's family was taken to a Siberian gulag. And then it's this really joyful story of them coming to London and finding peace and stability in North London, around the corner, as he says, from Brent Cross. And his mum ended up doing an awful lot of talks about what she'd been through, specifically so that it would never happen again, so that it would always be remembered. And Danny's piece in the magazine today shows just how far we are from that being the case. Danny ended up getting embroiled in a kind of interesting sequence of events. There's a right-wing YouTuber called Nick Fuentes.
He's by some margin the most objectionable twerp I've ever come across.
Yeah, you won't hear any objection from me on that.
He was
horrifying.
He's awful. Louis Theroux interviewed him, which is when I first came across him a couple of years ago. Anyway,
he's unashamed in his support for Hitler. I mean, openly. And he's become really quite prominent in America, terrifyingly. Tucker Carlson had him on his show, and in response to that, Piers Morgan challenged him to come on his show. And Danny Finkelstein offered Piers Morgan some sort of help with, his pushback against Fuentes. And as part of that, he made a video about his story and his parents. And then on Piers Morgan's show, Fuentes mocked him, started talking about how British people will have slang for the Holocaust, started calling it the Holly. And as a result of what Nick Fuentes did and said on that show, Danny Finkelstein has been inundated and bombarded with the most horrific anti-Semitic messages and memes. I mean, it's hard to even say this stuff on air, but things about, like, your dad is a lampshade, your mum is a bar of soap. They've made memes of these things. They send him pictures of these things. He has phone calls and text messages directly to him about all of this stuff. And he says it has slowed down in the months since, but it hasn't stopped at all. And as he wrote this, he said, only yesterday he got messages with someone with an AI-generated Hitler doing the singing, an AI account being set up called I Love Gas Chambers. I mean, the stuff is just, it's hideous. He's tried arguing with them, but it doesn't work, as he says.
You cannot reason with these.
You can't reason with someone who calls the Holocaust the Holly. He says they're just beyond reason. So it's a really important piece, I think, to read. And as you say, Jane, the book. And it is beyond depressing. But what I love about this piece is that Danny's take isn't depressing and his approach isn't depressing, and that's really important. He says that his parents would totally have agreed with his approach, which is to confront it all, not to shy away from it all. And they would have found it upsetting, he says, particularly because they really believed in young people and they really believed in America as two very positive forces. And a lot of this pushback seems to be coming from America and from young people. But he says the important thing is that they were never complacent. They had a sense of proportion and they weren't going to live their life as victims, despite everything that has happened to them. And he says they wouldn't want him to either, and he definitely won't. I also think this won't be the last piece that Danny writes on this subject, because I think it just continues to get more horrifying.
Yeah, and as we move further and further away from the events of the Holocaust, it becomes even more significant that we actually, we discuss what happened, we attempt to understand why it happened, and we educate our young people about how it must never ever happen again.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh God, it is a tough,
bleak.
tough read. Yeah.
Also, just to say, Danny has recorded an episode of the Story podcast about it. In his words, reading this piece. So if you want to listen to it, that will be airing from Saturday.
Okay, you'll find that where you get your podcasts,
all your good podcasts.
Now, Chris Hemsworth.
This is much more cheerful.
Well, he's an attractive actor, noted for playing, is it Thor?
Yes, Jane, actual god.
An actual god. But actually, this interview is not without its more serious aspects.
No, absolutely. And I think... what more could you want for Valentine's Day morning than Chris Hemsworth on the cover of your Times magazine?
Oh, yeah, it's Valentine's morning.
It's Valentine's morning. He's a gift to everyone.
It looks like the only person who's got any Valentines in the office is Rod Liddle. I did spot a couple of cards on the side. Is it you, Fee?
Who are they from?
No. Well, you know what I said when you asked me that in the office, but I can't repeat it on air.
Carry on, Jane.
Will Pavia has met Chris Hemsworth in New York, and it's a very, very funny interview. Chris Hemsworth, 6'3", 16 stone, plays a god, gives Will fitness and workout and diet advice, which is several paragraphs of great humour.
I like that.
It's really good. But it is also, as you say, it's got real depth to it. Chris Hemsworth, who is known for sort of being an action man and having, biceps like hams, he actually shot this documentary series with that Darren Aronofsky, who made Black Swan, that was all about longevity. And the idea was that, it would be sort of, this perfect specimen of manhood, talking about longevity. And actually, as part of this filming, he did some gene tests and he found that he was quite at high risk of developing Alzheimer's. And he talked to his dad about it, and his dad was very reassuring and said, "Don't worry, mate, we'll figure it out." And then a few years later, his dad himself was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And Chris just talks so movingly about his relationship with his dad, and how they are coping with his dad's Alzheimer's. And this really got me actually when I was reading it, that Chris has this approach of keeping on asking his dad questions that he knows the answer to, but to make his dad feel like he's still coming to him with advice. Right. And he just sounds like such a gentle man. And he talks about that moment when it flips and your parents have always looked after you, but you're now the one looking after them. And he says his goal is just to make his dad feel comfortable and safe the way that he did with him and his three brothers when they were kids. It's a really beautiful read.
Yeah.
And the pictures are quite nice too.
Right, well, that's neither here nor there. Also featuring in the magazine is David Miliband.
Yes.
Now,
do you like those pictures?
I do like. What can I say? Of course, I like those pictures. David is the brother of Ed, and David has a significant job, doesn't he? I mean, it's
yes,
quite an important role he's got. Remind us again what he does.
I'm going for the actual title now, Joan, because you've challenged me to find it.
It's the big. They're not quite called saviours of the world, but it's not.
It's not actually saviours of the world.
It's not far off that.
International Rescue.
That's it.
International Rescue. Thank you, Fee. And he is International Rescue Committee.
Yeah.
He is well remunerated for that. He does earn $1.2 million a year for being head of that. But I'm sure he's very busy.
Oh, no.
Important, but it's also maybe why he hasn't come back to rescue the Labour Party. I mean, that could be one of the reasons.
That question is put to him, and indeed, of course, he's asked whether he and his brother Ed are friends again. And it doesn't sound as though...
he says, I saw him not so long ago at an event.
At an event?
An event. I mean, my brother can be a bit useless too. I was texting him last night because he hadn't told me about the family villa that we're all apparently going to in France. But, I wouldn't say, I saw my brother at an event, his own 50th.
But you and your brother didn't sort of fall out over
we didn't go head to head to run a country. No, it's true. Absolutely.
No. But,
my brother would probably win that as well.
Oh, don't even suggest it. Right. Jane, thank you very much.
Thank you.
A lot of very important and interesting stuff in the Times magazine on Saturday.